All right, y'all. Welcome to the Supreme Court fight debrief and March vote win emergency briefing. My name is Kelly Robinson, and I'm the National Organizing Director at Planned Parenthood Votes. And I'm so glad and really honored that y'all are joining us tonight. I know it's been a heck of a few days and few months in this fight. And as you know, just yesterday, Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court in a devastating blow. For so many of us, for survivors, for abortion access and birth control access, for healthcare. And really, I think the most heartbreaking thing is it's a blow for our nation. But even though we may have lost this fight, we have awakened something that can never be stopped, an immovable and unstoppable force of advocates and activists across every issue and across every state and city and even political persuasion. These folks are fired up and ready to fight back, and I'm so glad that so many of our badass movement leaders and activists have joined us on the call tonight to debrief where we've been, but more importantly, figure out how we're going to fight forward because we've got some important work ahead. One of the most important elections in our nation's history is just 4 weeks away. So we need every single person on this call to join us to take back power from that same Congress that just yesterday unjustly handed Kavanaugh a lifetime of power on the Supreme Court. It's time. So tonight, we are going to give you some insights into the impact we had in just the last few months on the Supreme Court fight. And you're going to hear from special guests and learn exactly what you need to know to fight back. So, before we start, I want to take a minute to check in with you and just ask, how are you feeling? And I know over the last couple of days, when anyone asks me, how am I doing? I feel like that's the most unfair question. But a part of our movement work is about loving each other enough to really check in and see how we're doing right now. So I want to ask you, how are you feeling? If you're willing, I want to invite you to write 1 to 2 words about how you're feeling in the chat box for those of you that are joining us online. Just give us a couple of words to describe how you're feeling in this moment. Yeah. And I want to hear it all, y'all. I know that I've had my feelings come in waves. Sometimes I'm feeling pissed off and angry, like I could burn everything down. And then that's followed up by a wave of kind of grief for, my aspirations once again falling short on what I hope for from our country. And then that other wave comes where I feel hopeful and feel connected to folks in a new way. And then it starts all over again. So I see folks on this call are kind of in that same frame. A lot of folks are feeling sadness, feeling ignored, feeling silenced. A lot of folks are feeling that sense of rage. And the funny thing is about rage, on the other side of rage is a hope. I see folks are feeling disappointed, especially in some of the folks that we've entrusted to make big decisions for us, for our communities, and for our families, and for our nation. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I can tell you that Planned Parenthood Votes, we are here and we're ready to make sure that we take all of those feelings, all that stuff that you've been wrestling with and will wrestle with in the coming days, to give you a way to activate it and put it in service of the next chapter of this fight, because we're going to need you. And I would also ask that everybody take some time to check in on each other, check in on the folks that you've met in this movement moment, in this fight, because we need to make sure that we are healing together and keeping strong, because the work ahead is going to require every single one of us to get to the other side. So just remember, we're here. Planned Parenthood Votes has your back. Every activist and leader that you've met over the last few weeks and months, we have got your back, and make sure that you make that clear to everyone else. And when it comes this November, they're going to see how tight we are and how much we have each other's backs. Because no matter what kind of threats come our way, Planned Parenthood, the speakers on this call, and the millions of Americans like you who stood up against insurmountable odds to almost do the impossible will be there every single day to fight for your rights, to fight for my rights, to fight for all of our rights. So over the next 30 minutes, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to take a little bit of a step back and just hear what happened during this fight, right? And then we're going to hear from some incredible guest speakers, including the United States Senator Cory Booker. Come on now. Planned Parenthood former President Cecile RIchards. Really, she's the forever president in my heart, but she's going to be on the call for us. And then we'll also have Emily's List President Stephanie Schriock here to talk about the fight ahead. So our speakers will dive into what's at stake this November and really kind of clue us into the movement that's been happening on the ground from their vantage points. And then we'll close the call with talking about what we need you to do to take this loss and turn it into the shift that we need towards justice, to ensure that our country never forgets the lessons that we've learned in this moment, because we're driving towards a new and a brighter day. Sound good to everybody? All right, let's go ahead and jump in here. So let's talk about the recap. Whew, it has been a few months, y'all. As we all know, in July of this year, Donald Trump nominated Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. Now, let's remember, Donald Trump had already promised to nominate someone who would overturn our right to safe legal abortion automatically if it was challenged at the Supreme Court level, and Brett Kavanaugh fit that bill. So we knew that he was unfit. We knew that he was a danger to the rights that we've worked to gain over the last 40 years, and we knew we had to fight back. But while many people were saying that his appointment to the Supreme Court was a quote-unquote done deal, you responded. You said, not on our watch. Every one of you leaders and activists on this phone. You knew that Brett Kavanaugh's nomination was a threat to our right to safe legal abortion, to access to birth control, and so much more. And you made sure that our senators knew that as well. People from all over the country held rallies, hundreds and thousands of rallies, made thousands of phone calls, wrote letters, posted on social media, all of this to ensure that this appointment wouldn't happen without a fight. Then, in September, Dr. Blasey Ford, Deborah Ramirez, and Julie Swetnick courageously came forward with allegations of sexual assault against Brett Kavanaugh. As Dr. Blasey Ford delivered her testimony in front of the Supreme Court, survivors and allies spoke out in D.C. and all over this country, demanding that senators stand with survivors and reject the nomination of Kavanaugh once and for all. And I can tell you, so many folks stood up and said, I believe Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. I believe Deborah Ramirez. I believe Julie Swetnick. And I still believe Anita Hill. Hundreds of you shared your stories through letters, through videos, and social media with your senators, even using tools like our new campaign, dearsenators.org. You did this and bravely stepped forward, and right up until that final vote. We were out in the streets making our voices heard all across this country, showing senators in this country that our movement refuses to be silent and refuses to back down when we know something unjust is about to occur. Now, the vote outcome yesterday, it didn't go the way that we would have hoped. Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court. But be sure, my friends, that wasn't the end. In fact, it was the beginning of the next stage in our fight, because, y'all, November is coming and we will hold these folks accountable to the votes that they have made. So for anyone that's wondering what happens next, it's coming up in just 4 weeks. We have a chance to hold our elected officials accountable for the decision to give Brett Kavanaugh a lifetime appointment on the Supreme Court. We have a responsibility and a requirement that we show up and we turn out this November. We need to do everything we can to defend our rights from further attacks and take this loss and shift it where it needs to be, towards justice. So let me tell you the good news here. Let me tell you the good news. Planned Parenthood Votes, we're running the largest midterm election program in our history, where we're going to talk to more voters and knock on more doors than ever before. And with that, I want to introduce you to one of our champions in this fight to really tell you more about what's at stake and what we need to do moving forward. I have somebody who has been standing up boldly and proudly for Planned Parenthood and with survivors on the line that I'm so proud to introduce, United States Senator Cory Booker.
Hello, everybody. It's Cory Booker. I am so thrilled that there are people across this country on this phone right now who are fired up. Many of us are angry. Many of us are hurting right now. But many of us understand that we've got to turn our pain into perseverance. We got to have our outrage get us out working, that we are never defined by what happens to us, but we're defined by how we respond. And we now have even more reason to go out in November and vote, but not just vote, work over the next 30 days to get people out voting. I'm in Iowa right now campaigning for candidates. This is a state that has slashed Planned Parenthood funding, even in areas where Planned Parenthood is the only clinics that allow women to have access not only to contraceptive care, but even larger health care. There are outrages going on as Planned Parenthood is under attack by minorities in this country who do not understand the power and the importance and the urgency of Planned Parenthood. Some services are used by Republicans and Democrats, services that make life-saving differences. I'm so grateful for the leadership of this organization, for Dr. Wen and for others who understand that we must continue to empower women and men and families through healthcare, empower them through access, empower them through opportunity. But in life, nothing worthwhile is easy. You are always going to have to fight to gain ground. I was taught in Newark, New Jersey, where I live, in the central ward of that city, in a tough neighborhood by a heroic woman named Miss Virginia Jones, whose son was murdered in the projects in which she lived and where she was a tenant president. I eventually moved into those projects and once asked her why she didn't move out when her son was murdered. She and I made enough money, we could have lived in a lot of places. And she looked at me like bemused by the question. And she goes, "Why didn't I move out?" And I go, "Yeah, why didn't you move out?" She goes, "Cory, because I'm in charge of Homeland Security." This woman understood what it meant to take responsibility, to never let your inability to do everything undermine your determination to do something. That we in this country take responsibility for each other and we stand up. She taught me what hope is. Hope is not something that is an external sign that you get because something goes right or circumstances change. That hope is the active conviction that despair will never have the last word. That all of us have to be determined to be agents of hope. There's a saying by King that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Well, I'm sorry. Change does not come in on the wheels of inevitability. We have to be benders of the arc. We have to be bringers of the hope. We have to be makers of the change. And so everyone on this call, we've got to understand that we have a responsibility, that we didn't get here by accident. We got here by Americans who didn't wait for Washington. The suffrage movement didn't just wait around for a whole bunch of men to one day say, hey, women deserve their right to vote. They brought the change. They brought the activism. They made the hope possible. There wasn't a whole bunch of folks sitting back around this country thinking, well, maybe one day Strom Thurmond's going to wake up and say those Negro people should have their civil rights. No, black folks and white folks and Christian folks and Jewish folks and Muslim folks and brown folks all joined together to make the change that we now experience. That's where we are in our country right now. Don't let anybody tell you this is a partisan fight. This is not about right or left. It is about right or wrong. And in moral moments in our country's history, heroes emerge. And they're not the people we read about in the history books. It's not that great man theory of history that people descend from Mount Olympus and make change. No, we are here in this country because of a conspiracy of love, of millions and millions of personal acts of grace, of private acts of citizenship, of people getting up every single day after hardship and pain and saying, this is not a time to curl up. This is not a time to shut up. This is not a time to give up. This is a time to stand up, to speak up, to rise up. This is a time for us to bring the fight forward. And so I just want to encourage everybody on this phone, everybody who's hurting right now, everyone who knows the pain of having leaders in Washington that not only don't believe women, don't only believe survivors, but mock them at rallies, laugh and jeer at people who are telling their truth. We can't respond to that darkness with darkness. We can't respond to that cruelty with cruelty. We have to respond with light. We have to respond with hope. We have to respond with love. And love ain't easy. Anybody who's a parent on this phone knows that. Love is not some candy-coated saccharine word like it's been turned into by popular media. Love is hard. Love is work. Love is sacrifice. Love is struggle. And justice is what love looks like in public. And so we now, as agents of justice, we now, as provocateurs of hope, this is our moment to act. I'm so inspired as I travel around this country campaigning, seeing people turning out for rallies like they've never had before, believing that this is the moment that they can turn their country from the wrong track to the right track. And I know everyone on this call, we are all leaders on this call. This is an assembly of leaders. And I just call on my fellow brothers and sisters on this call to please, in this moment, don't leave anything on the sidelines. Bring it all on the field. This is our moment. 30 days until the most important and consequential election of my lifetime. We have a president who has no check on his power. He has now turned the tide of the Supreme Court. He's now has control of the House, has control of the Senate. We need to check this president. Flip the House of Representatives. Flip the Senate. Don't let anybody tell you it's impossible to flip the Senate. Heck, American history is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of the impossible, to people determined to do impossible things. We are the ones now that can make impossible things happen, that can change the destiny of our nation, that can drive this country forward, get more people out to vote, have more people be able to make their country reflect the spirit, the dignity, and the love of everyone. Let's get the vote out. Let's get the vote out. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Booker. I was really inspired when you said, we are not here by accident. We're here because brave people took meaningful action day by day, and we can be those folks. We can be those brave folks that are taking the types of actions we need to change the course of history. We have to in this moment. So folks, in order for us to be able to stop the continued attacks on our rights and our healthcare, we got to win enough seats to elect a Congress that actually represents us. That's why I'm so excited to introduce you to someone who knows better than anyone else what is at stake this year and what's happening on the ground and across the country. I give you the Cecile RIchards.
Thank you, Kelly. It's really an honor to get to be back with the Planned Parenthood family. And it was wonderful to hear Senator Booker. I just have to say, Senator Booker, Senator Harris, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Hirono, there's so many unbelievable champions. And I know it's so easy to focus right now on the folks who betrayed us, who betrayed women, and their time's coming. But I think it's really important to remember how courageous our folks were, and no one more than Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, who stood for millions of American women and men who did not have the chance to testify. She carried all of us that day, as did Dr. Anita Hill years before. And so I just want to thank Senator Booker personally, but also remember all the people who did amazing work in trying to shed a light and bring justice to the proceedings. Look, I've had wins and losses in my life, but this was really up there with the toughest, one of the toughest things, because I think a lot of us just feel so betrayed. And there's so many people on this phone. First, I just want to say thank you. I know you marched, you rallied, you wrote letters. Folks shared some of their most painful and personal stories that many that had never been shared before, in an effort to show solidarity and shed a light on the extreme stigma and shame that still surrounds sexual assault, sexual violence, sexual harassment. And folks did make their voices heard in unprecedented numbers all across the country, and people put it all on the line. And so I just think it is really important to acknowledge that before we turn to the next fight. We should be proud of the work that we did. You should be proud of what you did. And one thing is clear, I think, because of the work people did, as I think Kelly said, this is a nomination that was supposed to just sail through. If it hadn't been for the people on this call and thousands of more, the American people would have never known what was at stake. And frankly, by the point of this confirmation, if the American people had had their way, Brett Kavanaugh would not be going on to the Supreme Court. But this Senate under this president has jammed through a Supreme Court justice, the barest of majority votes, without respect to the will of the American people. And that is painful, and it's infuriating. And in 30 days, we have a chance to make a change and make a difference. And I think that is really important. You know, the midterms, as Cory said, this is our chance to actually do our work. We've got 30 days to do it and to elect people that care about women, that care about reproductive justice, that care about civil rights and social justice and criminal justice. And all of that is frankly within our hands. I know I've been rereading like what folks have been posting online and posting on my Instagram and, you know, wherever you go to read. And I was just reading all the posts about Dr. Christine Ford, and this is similar to many, many of them, but a woman wrote into me. She says, she was so courageous. I just want to hug her. And I know we all felt that way. But I think that really, it kind of struck me that, you know, the courage that Dr. Ford showed and the courage that Dr. Anita Hill showed, they did hard work for all of us, and that cannot have been in vain. And so I hope no matter how depressed you are and how angry you are, you recognize that it is important that now we finish this job, because they started it, but we can actually finish it. And we have the numbers to do it. I've been traveling around the country, listening to women, listening to survivors, listening to people who believe in a government that represents all people. And though people are outraged, and particularly women are outraged, they are not despondent, and they are ready to fight back. They are ready to elect people who support the values that we believe in. Look, this is an amazing thing to me. 1 in 5 people in this country have marched or taken some kind of political action since this president was elected. And you know what the single most important issue, because they've polled, like what is it that is motivating people? The single most unifying issue has been women's rights. And so combined with the fact that women are the biggest voting bloc in this country, we have a real opportunity. And I think that it's important to remember that we've already beat the odds. And African-American women in Alabama elected the first Democratic senator in more than 25 years. They did that, right? In Virginia, folks elected Danica Rome, the first transgender member of the Virginia Assembly and the first Latinas ever. And then they voted in Medicaid expansion for people in the Commonwealth. In my home state of Texas, where I hate to say it, but often there's nothing to brag about, the first 2 Latinas will be coming, in all likelihood, coming to Congress this year, the first in the history of Texas. There are 80 women of color who are nominated for Congress this year. There are amazing women up and down the ballot, people of color, progressives of all stripes, and we have an opportunity now to make sure that they get elected, because now they're doing the hard work for all of us, and we have to make sure that we get it over the line. I know we can't talk about specific candidates on this call, but I'll just end with my last pitch to you. One is, you know, I think we all know the main reason people don't vote is no one ever asked them. There are millions of women in this country who will not vote without our encouragement. So make sure you're registered. 2, go vote. A lot of places we already have early vote. 3, knock on doors and phone banks. Because for the millions and millions of women and men and young people who rely on Planned Parenthood for care, they need us. They need us to get this job done. Now more than ever, it's vital we make our voice heard at the ballot box on November 6th. Thanks so much for letting me be on, Kelly.
Thank you so much, Cecile. We appreciate your work and your leadership in this fight. Like Cecile said, y'all, we have the numbers to win this November. It's about turning out and taking responsibility to make sure that we turn out ourselves and turning out everyone in our family, your uncle, your cousin. Everybody needs to be at the polls this November. And if you have a little bit of extra bandwidth or want to take even more leadership, we need you to be knocking on doors of folks that you may not know as well in your community to make sure that they get out too and have the resources they need to vote. At the end of this call, we're going to give everyone the chance to plug into actions that are happening as soon as this week to make sure that we're starting that next phase of the fight and moving towards November. Because let me tell you this, not if, but when we win this November, we will finally be in a position to put in place policies that ensure the rights and protections that we all deserve. That's what this November's election is about. It's about putting in the policies that we need to protect and preserve the rights of our communities from the national level to the state level to the local level. So that is why I am so excited to introduce to you the president of Emily's List, an organization working to elect a record number of women to office this year, Stephanie Schriock.
Great. Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for your energy, your passion, your leadership, and thanks a lot for making me have to speak after both Cecile RIchards and Senator Cory Booker. I mean, really, this is a tough spot to be in. I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored. Cecile, as always, it's so good to be in this battle with you. I will always, always stand by your side. And Senator Booker, I can't thank you enough for your leadership in all aspects of our work, but particularly in this journey on the Judiciary Committee. My very first election that I voted in was in 1992, and I was in college, and I remember those hearings in 91. I remember Dr. Hill and her bravery, and I remember looking, and I was one of those women that looked at that Judiciary Committee and went, holy cow, where are the women? There wasn't a single woman on that Judiciary Committee then. And Senator Barbara Mikulski used to say that she'd get asked all the time, and she'd say, well, there's only 2 women in the Senate. We can't cover all the committees. I cannot believe that we just went through all of this together, and we would look at those video shots of the Judiciary Committee and watch the bravery and inspiration of Dr. Ford, and the camera would look up at the committee, and you'd look at the Democratic side, and you'd see Senator Booker there, and you'd see the great women that Emily's List have helped elect, from Dianne Feinstein, who came in on that push after during 1992, and Mazie Hirono and Amy Klobuchar, who was so fantastic, and of course Senator Harris. And I was so proud. I was so proud to be looking at our caucus and the diversity of voices. And then the camera would go over to those white men who were staring down at us. So you better believe I am just as mad as you are. And we have a lot of work to do. And we are going to do it together to make this happen. I mean, we know that if this had been a vote of the American people, Kavanaugh would never be on the court. That would have never happened. We know what we have to do. And it starts in 30 days. It starts with this election, where we have to do everything we can do, everything. I mean, if you can squeeze out extra hours in the day, try to do it, because we ought to make a stand. This is about taking back the House. It's about taking back the Senate. But I got to tell you, it is about electing strong, smart, talented Democrats at every single level in this country. Our city councils, our county commissions, our state houses, our governorships, our legislatures, the House, the Senate, every step of the way, because we have to make a statement. And I am so honored to be with all of you tonight, because I know that we have the power to make that statement together. We have to say that this is not who we are, that we are better. We are full of hope. We believe in the goodness of people. I know that there are Americans waiting for us to come and knock on their door, or make that phone call, or have that conversation in the grocery aisle to say, how are you doing? Are you thinking about voting? What can I do to make sure you're registered? What can I do to make sure you step in today? Have a conversation, because I think a lot of folks have a lot to say, and maybe they can't always say it in their communities. And I believe there's a lot of independents, and I think there's a lot of Republicans, particularly women, who are ready to join us in this. Cecile said it. We know what we can do when we do this together. We saw what happened in Virginia just a year ago, where we flipped 15 seats in the House of Delegates. Nobody thought we were going to do that. My staff told me we were going to pick up 8 the morning of that election. But the voters were with us. We knocked on the doors. We did the hard work. And even though we didn't quite get the majority, just think what happened in Virginia. They expanded Medicaid. Progress happens when we work together and we win elections. So this is it. We've got 30 days. We have an historic number of women on the ballot, brave women, veterans, nurses, school teachers, moms, you name it, women who have never run before, women who have been serving for years. They're on the ballot in historic numbers this year, with a lot of good men who are standing by them as well. We have to do everything we can to make a statement to Trump and this Republican Party, who has lost their way, who has lost who we are as a nation. And we do that by making sure that these great candidates win. And you've heard it, you know how to do that. You are on this call because you are leaders, you are activists, you are with us. I know it has been a tough weekend. I am with you in how frustrating this is. But I just want you to think about those brave candidates across the country who have put their name on the ballot, who are standing up for us. And we got to back up those brave women and the brave men who are doing this work and fighting every day, and we're going to do it. And here's the thing, one other thing, and then I'm going to get it back to the team here. We got 30 days. I want you to look at your calendar tonight. I want you to start allocating hours of the day to volunteer. I know you're going to do it. And then tomorrow morning, I want you to look at that calendar again, and I want you to add shifts. Every week until this election, I'll be with you. Cecile will be with you. Senator Booker will be with you. We will be with you in this. We need you to get out there and help us make this happen. And then after we win in 30 days, we're going to go get Susan Collins, and we're going to go get Lindsey Graham, and we're going to get Donald Trump and all these other Republicans who happen to not be on the ballot this November. We're going to get them. But first, we're going to make a stand this November. Thank you. Thank you for all you've done for Planned Parenthood and for Emily's List and these great candidates, and we're just going to keep it going.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie Schriock. We appreciate you. And thank you for reminding us that we are going to win. We have to win. But it doesn't happen by accident. It happens because people make intentional and meaningful action, right? By allocating a little bit of your time and your energy to this fight, and taking responsibility not only for yourself and getting yourself to vote, but making sure that your family members are voting, your friends are voting, allocating time to go do shifts, to knock on doors and make phone calls. That's how we win, through hard work, and work works. I see people writing in the chat. Someone said that I didn't even know that that she talked to her sister about voting, and her sister wasn't planning on voting up and down the ticket, but through a conversation, she made sure that that was going to happen. That's another vote for the people that are going to protect and defend our rights. That is important, y'all. We've got to take responsibility for us and for our communities. And just know, progress, it's happening. I'm reminded that just 3 generations ago, my family were actually slaves in Mississippi. That's just 3 generations ago. And now I get to be the National Organizing Director of Planned Parenthood Action Fund. Stephanie reminded us that in 1992, we had a wave of women that were elected to office. And from that, what do we get? Policies like the Violence Against Women Act that protects survivors of domestic abuse. And now, this is the next chapter of that same story, where we are going to see a wave of energy and activism that propels the kind of electeds into office that will fight for our needs, for the things that we care about. But it only will happen if everyone on this phone call makes a commitment and makes a decision to get involved and take action this November. We need you. And November 6th is the day we want to circle on our calendars, but the work starts today. So, a lot of y'all have been asking, how can you help? And it's simple. We need you to help us to get out the vote. Now, I want to talk about 2 ways that you can do this. 1, you can join your local Planned Parenthood political organization to get involved in their electoral organizing program near you. We have organizers running canvases literally every single week, and phone banks more often than that as we get closer to the election, every single day, all over the country. So we want to connect you with opportunities to join your local Planned Parenthood organizations in that work. Number 2, I've got a second option for you to get involved. You can become a Get Out the Vote captain and be a leader amongst your friends, families, and your neighbors to ensure that they are also getting out the vote. We're here to give you all the tools that you need to do that in a smart and strategic way to ensure that we're increasing voter turnout this year, because we need to do that. So y'all, here's the time. I want you to make a commitment today in front of Senator Cory Booker, Cecile RIchards, Stephanie Schriock, and everybody else. I want you to make a commitment, because now is a time where we need you to really show up and make a difference this year. So a poll is just about to pop up on your screen. It might be in front of you right now. And I want to ask each of you to answer this question. Will you commit to helping get out the vote for our people in the upcoming election? Your answers that you can choose are heck yes, maybe you need some more information, or not at this time. I really am looking for those heck yeses. But come on, y'all, I want to hear. Can you commit to helping get out the vote for your people in this upcoming election cycle? And y'all remember, as you're filling this out, this election cycle, this one, has the potential to put a check on Trump's agenda to limit our access to reproductive health care, to limit our access to reproductive rights. and to prevent the appointment of more judges like Brett Kavanaugh to the courts at all levels. That's what's at stake this election cycle. Can you commit to volunteering, to making sure we're getting out the votes, to put a check on the Trump-Pence administration, and to ensure we're electing pro-women's health majorities across the country? All right, y'all. We're getting some responses in. Let me tell you this. Of the people on the call tonight, 91% of folks said yes. And actually, if I added with the 8% that need more information, 99% of the people on this call are committed and are ready and want to step up and make sure that they are taking on a leadership role in helping us to get out the vote this November. That is awesome. That is amazing. And look, y'all, thank you from the bottom of my heart. That is making sure that the stories and the bravery from survivors across the country and from brave folks like Dr. Christine Blasey Ford stepping up in this way is another way to ensure that their stories were not told in vain, but to ensure that we're doing wraparound support and holding folks accountable. So this matters. After this call, my friends, we've got 3 next steps for you. Number 1, you're going to get a text or email tomorrow with an invitation to attend events this week. Make sure you look out for that in your inbox or on your phone. We're going to connect you, like I said, right away with events this week to start taking electoral action so we can get out the vote. Number 2, I need you to sign up and attend the online training or Canvas near you to get all the information you need to start organizing right away. We'll send you that information, but we want you to sign up and attend that so we can get you ready to go to take responsibility for organizing your community and getting out the vote. And then third, and most importantly, go double and triple check your voter registration. Find out your early voting dates in your state and get out there and get out the vote. And when you go, don't go by yourself. Fill up your car or get a walking group together and go down. But make sure you are getting out there and you are going to vote. Every single vote this year will matter. In Virginia, there was one race where we, last year, where we really skated through with just a handful of votes. One election that was actually decided by a coin toss because the vote was even. Every single vote matters. So my friends, expect that information from us tomorrow. And if you want to get a jump on signing up to upcoming events and trainings, we've got some additional links on your screen. If you want to join upcoming electoral events in your area and start looking for yourself, check out the website ppact.io/GOTV events. That's on your screen, but let me read it a couple more times for folks on the phone. That's ppact.io/GOTV events. Check out that link and you can find all the local events happening near you and be plugged in to additional opportunities. And if you want to get a jump on signing up for upcoming online trainings, you can go to ppact.io/GOTV training. That's ppact.io/GOTV training. You'll see these links on the screen and we've also put them in the chat function for you. Whew. All right, folks. Wow. It has been so satisfying and so inspiring to have all of you on this call with us today. For the last couple of weeks, I've pretty much been living full-time down at the Capitol, camping out and protesting, listening to stories, and just standing in solidarity with everyone who has come out in this effort. And we came close, y'all. We came so close to doing what so many folks thought to be impossible. And yet, in spite of all the powerful stories that have been shared and all the sweat and tears we put into this particular effort, sure, we may have fallen a little bit short on that singular goal of defeating Brett Kavanaugh. But we've won in so many other respects. We've built a movement that can't be stopped. And if you're at the point right now where you're feeling like, hey, I need to cry a little bit, let some emotions out, do some healing space, that's okay. Because we got to remember Audre Lorde's words, right? That self-care and taking care of yourself is actually an act of political warfare. So make sure that if you're in that kind of position that you're taking care of yourself and you're reaching out to take care of each other. Now, when you're ready, though, we need you. Because in 4 weeks, we've got a chance to show them what we are really made of. We are all in. And with your help, With the help of everyone on this phone and so many other leaders and activists, we're going to knock on more doors and reach more voters than ever before. And when we win, not if, but when, it will certainly be because of all of you, because of the movement that we've built, and because of the thousands of people like you who have stepped up, who have raised their hand when we could have given up. So grab your friends, grab your neighbors, grab your dogs too if you want. And I know I want to see you out there knocking on voters' doors and being a leader to turn folks out this year. So thanks, y'all. That's all we have for today. Expect so much more information from us in the coming days. And remember, November is coming, and November 6th is when we take power back for our communities and for our people. Good night.